Welcome everyone to Wrestling with the Paranormal. I am your host, the enlightened one, your favorite cartoon friend. And today we got some special guests. I love them. We're gonna eat them for dinner. Let's play the intro. Welcome everyone to Wrestling with the Paranormal. I'm your host, Canada F and Dry. I am the patron saint of professional wrestling. I'm that gingered up, bubbly son of a bitch. I'm Canada Dry, damn it. And of course, we have better than your boyfriend, Ryan Rich. How you introduce yourself?
Hello, one and all. It is better than your boyfriend, Lord Ryan Rich. And I am honored to be here with this esteemed panel today.
And of course, we got April Hunter. Welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, how are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on. I'm here to help represent Kill City Cup. And I am I'm a wrestler, a former playmate, and a children's book author. How does that all go together? I don't know. It just does.
Oh, we'll find out more about all that stuff as we go along here. Mason, introduce yourself.
I'm Mason X. I'm an Army veteran, monster and mask maker.
Of course, we're going to see a little bit more of that. We have a few of Mason's masks here. And of course, we got a paranormal documentary maker, Joel Bouchard. Tell us a little bit about your project here.
Yeah, so I just completed a project called Paranormal Mill. There's a very haunted, known old wolf mill in Vasselberg. A lot of activity. They had a paranormal festival exactly 1 year ago. They just had this year's yesterday, actually. I couldn't make it. But a year ago, I recorded everything on that day. Stumbled upon some really cool, spooky stuff going on. So put that together. Hopefully I can make a series out of it. And Ryan, I love that you're sporting the Kill City shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll be able to, we've only got an hour, so I don't know how much we can get from you, Joel, but we'd love to have you back on a separate episode that's just about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So that being said, we have some videos and pictures to show you that we've collected over the internet just to get your responses from them. This is what we call the vault.
It looks like it's time to open up the vault.
Do you know the combination?
All right, guys. So this is how it goes. We've collected some clips and some pictures, and we just want to get your takes on it. The first one is a wheelchair in a hospital that is moving by itself. We've cut out the audio. That way we don't get hit with any copyright infringement. So here it is. So this is being filmed by a nurse. It seems to be moving by itself. You can see the shadows. And they're playing it again. You can't see any string or anything. This just keeps going on. That's good enough. What are your thoughts on this, April?
That's just super creepy. I don't know. I mean, I never rule out that there are spirits or consciousness or something out there, and I don't know if this is could be anything really. I don't know enough. You guys are smarter than I am in this department.
I don't know if we're smarter. What do you talk about in your podcast, April?
Well, we talk about a lot of things. Usually, a lot of what the news is not giving us, the missing information. We talk about a lot of esoteric subjects, mental health, good news stories you never hear about. We do a lot of stuff about cosplay and pop culture. So we don't really touch on the paranormal enough, but if we bring somebody in who's an expert with something, then we will.
Oh. Rich, what do you think about this?
That it was pretty freaky, to be honest with you. You couldn't you didn't see shadows anywhere. I mean, in terms of if they had a string or something, that the way that they if it was some sort of prank, the way that they did it to get everything to turn the way that it did was very masterfully done. So that gave me a little shiver up my spine there.
Yeah. Mason, your thoughts on this wheelchair thing?
It was creepy, and I loved it. I looked at it. I couldn't see any strings, just like there's no strings on me. Looked very genuine.
Now, Joel, you're the one I really want to know about their thoughts on this one.
So we know that Mason's not a puppet. He informed us he doesn't have strings. But the wheelchair, if you watched it, it wasn't, if it was on strings, let's say hypothetically it was, because you might not see them. It wasn't that jerk. It was pretty smooth. And if you've ever pushed somebody in a wheelchair, you know you got that resistance. So it was very natural. Like someone was legitimately, like there was two people. There was someone in the chair and someone pushing it. And that's what made it extra spooky, is because it was almost like there was two specters sitting there.
All right, our next video is of the UFO variety, and this is a number of videos that were picked up in Colombia. It's a hot spot in Colombia for UFOs. Tell me what you guys think. So this is the first one. As you can see, there's an airplane going by as it's headed to the airport, and this is standing still. I don't know what Spanish what they're saying in Spanish.
What is this?
What is this?
Okay.
And then it was talking about the plane coming onto the right.
So we'll have another video coming up. Oh, this is the same one.
Yeah.
I believe this is another one. This one's shaped a bit different.
Maybe, depending upon the angle that you're looking at. If that's from the bottom and not the side, it could be the same.
Yeah. And then I believe another one.
That's the third one, yeah, because the other one was from July.
This one's moving.
And that was February of last year.
And this one's in the clouds, and this is in 2021.
Yeah, but that was New Year's Eve so I mean, the January one was just a few days after that, really. So that's pretty close in terms of time frame.
Yeah, so there's an interesting thing. Ever since 1999, there was this cult that was they were kind of like Heaven's Gate. They were believing that the aliens were going to take them away. And 100 of the cult members went into the rainforest and were never seen again. And after that, Colombia became a bit of a hot spot for UFOs, which is weird. Your thoughts on these videos, April?
Well, there's a bunch of different thoughts, but it would be very arrogant for us to believe that we are the only life in the universe and the highest life form at that. I mean, we've all seen everybody get into the same lane going through the tolls, even though there's 5 of them. So would it be far-fetched to think that it's possible that our military and our governments globally are imitating or recreating craft and testing them I mean, why would they have it out in the open, hovering, just to be seen, and right there with an airplane, a flight going right by? I mean, how difficult would it be to test something like that? I don't know. What does it run on?
Yeah, some of these things.
I don't know.
Right?
They said from what I understand, there's been a polar shift recently towards north, towards the sun, which accounts for why we have a little bit warmer weather too. With the polar shift came a magnetic change as well.
Mhm.
Isn't that what some of these craft run on?
Well, they're highly radiated, whatever, because everyone who gets near them ends up dying of cancer or something.
Okay, so
Rich, you're sorry.
no.
Rich,
I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, I also, like April, do believe that it is highly arrogant to think that we are the only forms of life out there, anywhere. At the same time, I do think that maybe this could be it could be a mixture of both. It could be something from a past craft, and then we're trying to duplicate or replicate the technology. Maybe we haven't figured out the cloaking part yet. But it's and with even the United States government coming out and declassifying things, it has to lead you to believe that where there's smoke, there's fire.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Mason, your thoughts?
I very much believe there are other entities out there in this universe other than ourselves. There's just statistically no way anything this expansive could have nothing else as intelligent or more intelligent than us. But I think those are something being done by one of the worldwide governments and their military. I'm with April on that.
Joel, your thoughts?
Well, I haven't checked much out of this book recently, but I'll tell you this. I got a much different theory about UFOs and a lot of those things. They don't really involve, I know Rich mentioned recreating stuff from the past. I think that's viable, as everything April said. My personal take, and it would take a whole podcast to discuss it, is more of a time traveling situation where this is actually our descendants in the future, literally time traveling back in time to harvest DNA to kind of regenerate either body parts or whatever they might need to in the future. So when you have all these abductions and these probings, why are they putting them back out? What they got, what they needed, they harvested, and now they're back where they need to be, and they're using that DNA in the future.
Wow.
Kind of like an interstellar type of deal. Fifth dimension.
I have an interesting theory. I won't get too far into it, but since there was a cult that was really kind of praying to the aliens, I have a theory that demons and aliens are actually the same thing, and they're actually posing as aliens. So that's just my theory. We won't get too far into that, but
Isn't there a theory also that angels and aliens are the same thing, and that wasn't it Genesis 6? The Nephilim were considered the fallen angels, and they were giants that were actually considered aliens in the Bible.
yeah,
They wrote about it.
That's like, I guess, fallen aliens and fallen angels.
Yeah. So I mean,
Well, a lot of people believe that, whatever the higher power or divine could be a fifth dimensional being, and that's why they could see all of time and space at once. So it could be something like, if you want to go that route, an alien or God, whatever being could be such a higher dimensional being that we just have no way to grasp it.
Yeah, this could be a whole podcast discussion.
Yeah, this itself could be 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, we could open a can of worms here. Let's move to our next. We're going to show some pictures here. And they're just like, okay, let's get back to the ghost thing. So this is just a picture. It's a girl doing a handstand.
Jeez.
And in the background, there is a ghost in old school attire. Your thoughts, April?
that's freaking awesome. I don't know. Probably definitely.
She's like, I want to do a
I
handstand.
believe in mediumship and ghosts and all that. I don't know. I think that's really cool. I don't know enough. Like I said, I don't know enough to comment, but I would like to think it's a ghost hanging out.
Yeah, she's just like chilling. Like, I wish I could do that.
Or maybe she's watching her great granddaughter.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Rich, your thoughts?
At first I was like, is that ghost wearing a gunny sack or something? Like, is it a sack of potatoes? But no, you could almost like you could see like the defined hair like of a
The pigtails or
1930s,
whatever.
1920 or something like that. Maybe even the late, even like if it was she died in the 50s or something like that. But yeah, it very well could be a family member watching over. It didn't seem to have a malicious presence there. But that's definitely an awesome picture.
Now, Mason, that mask is so scary. I want to hear your take on this too.
I find myself skeptical, but that is just because I'm a very skeptical person. I would want to examine that more closely on a much larger screen at a later date.
Joel, your thoughts?
Yeah, it'd be one of those things where it's very tricky in still photos in that particular respect, because if you take any dark photo and brighten it up, you're going to see areas that blow up in gray, especially if you take a long exposure photo with like a high ISO or something like that. The biggest issue here is our minds are trained to make imagery on things we recognize.
And that's called pareidolia, right?
Yeah. So that's where it's hard to look at something like that, especially where there's bushes in the background. And we all know that you look in the bushes and you're going to see something.
Yeah, and could this be doctored at all?
Well, look at the hairline around her hair and try to match. It kind of looks like leaves. It has the same pattern as the leaves around it.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's move to our next picture. And this one just creeps the hell out of me. I'm sorry, I got to say this. It is a kid and his imaginary friend. Like, look at how scary that face is. April, your thoughts on this one?
That's fun. I can't. Yeah, these are things that I feel like I need to see a little bit closer than what I'm seeing, and having dealt with photographs my whole life and seen some of the things that can be done with them, I'm skeptical, but
Yeah,
I'm also not gonna.
This one I picked up. There was a claim that this was an imaginary friend, and they're very concerned, and they moved out of the place after this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a scary looking. If that's a mask or someone just there, it's pretty scary looking.
So the imaginary friend didn't move with them, huh?
No.
Hope not.
Your thoughts, Rich?
At first look, I was like, is that like the little honeycomb bear badger monster? Like, what the heck is that, dude?
Yeah.
That was pretty freaking looking. I don't know about, like, it's hard to tell off of just a still like that, but it was pretty wild looking.
Mason, have you heard of some of these imaginary friends actually being malevolent creatures?
I've heard in older folk tales of situations like that. I've heard of fictional accounts, but I haven't heard any modern imaginaries that have turned out to be malevolent, not in modern times. But my reading on that particular subject has been minimal the last decade or so.
Joel, what do you think about this picture?
That's, it looks like an older photo. It appears as though he's using an iMac in that photo. Right there, the green one.
Oh yeah, the green IMAX. So yeah, good.
Yeah, so it's around a time period where it wouldn't be like everybody would have Photoshop and things like that at their disposal. Also, the Invisible Man, the Invisible Friend angle is neat. I know Annabelle the origin stories of that kind of started in this aspect that it could be legitimate. It doesn't look like anyone tried to stage anything.
Yeah. All right, that concludes our pictures. So I just want to ask Mason a couple things about his masks here, because these are masks. Have you guys seen these masks? They're freaking amazing. This is there's one. There we go. This is the one I love. This thing is amazing. Yeah, that was really cool. This is another one. It's like a big old pumpkin head. Yeah, these are really cool. Tell us a bit about how you came to make these.
So with the mask making, I missed several years from wrestling due to breaking my leg. I wanted a fresh gimmick, but I didn't want to do it cheesy, and I was low on funds. So I taught myself how to make masks. And they became more complex, darker, nastier as you see them now. And now it's become something of an addiction that I have to sell the ones I make so I can afford to buy and make more.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Rich, do you have any questions for Mason about this?
How long does it normally take to complete one of those masks, like on an average?
Anything as detailed as this or the one I just showed, you're looking at least 3 days. This one was wood burned to carve in all the fleshy details of the musculature. That alone was painstaking.
I can only imagine.
Now, are they fiberglass or what are they?
So, most of them are made of a material called ABS, is a type of plastic. The old Super Nintendo shells, the Super Nintendos are made out of, same kind of plastic. It's used in a lot of modern car interiors. I also use PETG, which is a clear type of plastic, kind of like the glass at a hockey rink. It's a much thicker form of that typically. I do resin. I have not delved into fiberglass, making my own yet, as it takes a little bit of work. And I've done some in leather. I've used materials as exotic as deer bone, coyote teeth, goat skin. If you name it, I've probably used it if I can get it legally.
Goatskin's skin, that sounds demonic.
Yes. So, do you have a question, Rich, for Mason?
What brought you? What have you been? Have you been into horror or things like that since you were a child, or what was it something that you grew up loving as well as pro wrestling?
For me, horror was an escape from reality. I didn't exactly have the kindest of childhood upbringings, and to escape into those was a nice release. So you could say that yes, I've been a lifelong horror fan. It has only grown since my car accident in 2014 to the point where it's almost an obsession.
So, who would you say that your favorite wrestler would be, Mason?
Depending on the day you ask me, it can change. I typically steer towards The Undertaker as a whole for his whole body of work. Despite his tragic end to his personal life, Benoit was one that I idolized for the longest time. And it took me a long time to reconcile and deal with how his life ended.
Yeah.
And Mick Foley was also a large inspiration.
Mick is pod. Does anyone else have any questions for Mason before we move on?
Well, if
How
I
much would one
recall,
of your-
go
Oh,
ahead,
sorry, go
April.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I know I saw some photos recently. Didn't Emilio Rivera from, Sons of Anarchy recently pose with one of your masks? And yeah, one of my favorite actors. He's in 3 from Hell, with one of my favorite movies.
So he came by our Kill City Cup booth. And he said he liked it. He watched it for a little bit, really enjoyed it. And I made sure to say, thank you for swinging by. And then he was looking at the mask, and had asked a question about them, and I told him I make them myself. And I offered to give him one for his son because he mentioned his son was into horror and stuff. And honestly, for someone like that, I would definitely hook somebody up. And so he went home with a Friday the 13th Part 7 I made with real leather straps for his boy.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Made it from the flesh of your enemies.
Really cuts down on costs.
If I could get away with it, I would. Trust me, I have looked to see if you could buy human skin. Unfortunately, you can't just go source that off eBay.
It's a bit of a hard to sell. What were you going to ask, April?
Previous to that, I was going to say if somebody wanted to buy a mask, how much would something like that cost? What are the price range there?
Depending on the complexity, it could be the cheapest I will typically sell one for is $40. At that point, I'm making just a couple bucks with the materials I tend to use, which are higher quality.
Mm-hmm.
The average is probably closer to 80, but I have sold some as high as 160. For example, this one right here, if someone was to ask me to make something just like this for them and sell it to them with the leather straps on the back, heavy duty and everything, this one's definitely in the 160, 180 range, just from the sheer amount of frustration all the etching costs.
Okay.
I can imagine. Yeah, the Jason mask. That one is amazing. I really appreciate that one. So we're gonna ask April a few questions now. April, so what was it like being part of that WCW locker room? What was the era that you were part of?
I was there in 2000, and it was chaotic and disorganized, as many have written about online. It was all of that and worse, actually. We would get there. We had to be there at 1:00. We didn't go live until 8:00, and we sat around. It was a lot of hurry up and wait. And so finally, somebody would post up on the wall, what the pre-shoot schedule was, and next thing you know, it was getting, scratched out, rearranged. Pages were getting torn off. Everything's getting. It was a mess. You never knew what was going on. So, basically, that's how I got into wrestling. So I jumped right into the deep end.
Like, how did you get into WCW?
Playboy. I did.
You were Playboy first.
Yeah, I did a. Yeah, unlike a lot of people, I did it first instead of after. So my issue that I was in, Kimberly Page was in it with, we were in the same issue. So they saw it and they recruited me.
So you're like is there a couple other NWO girls? Or are you the NWO girl?
No. Matter of fact, there was a couple others and they stayed longer than I did. So I left because they asked me to get trained to wrestle. And then Terry Taylor called Jim Ross and told Jim to grab me because he said that WCW wasn't doing much with me and probably wouldn't do anything right. So then I went over to WWE the day after WrestleMania, met the writers, and then they proceeded to send me to Killer Kowalski's in Boston.
Wow.
And while I was there, ECW and WCW folded, and I got lost in the shuffle while they were trying to figure out everything going on. So I started going to Japan and Mexico and working in Canada and Europe. So that's what kept me busy.
Rich, you got a question?
If you favorite opponent that you've ever had in the ring?
Oh my gosh. Wow. There've been a few. Lacey, Vesna Busick in Germany. I worked Momo Nakanishi in Japan. I guess she didn't work a lot of Westerners. I think I was one of only two. La Tigresa. And then, you know, I would come back to the United States and not stress out as much when I was working here because I was still new and I was learning. And when no one speaks English in other countries and you kind of learning the hard way, and you come back here and everybody speaks English, it's like, oh, no matter what happens, we'll be able to figure it out. We'll be fine out there. So it gets like that. It gets a lot easier.
That makes sense.
So this is Wrestling with Paranormal. So I have to ask you, have you ever seen something paranormal before or heard anything? Had this weird sort of experience?
I've had several weird experiences, and my closest friend is a psychic medium. So there's always some weird stuff going on, and we have been to some of the mediumship what do they call that? I want to say conventions, but they're not. They're kind of retreats, I guess.
Like a seance?
Yeah, I've seen those
Gathering.
too. Yep.
Okay, so what's the weirdest thing that you've ever seen or heard?
I see things. So stuff just appears for me sometimes. I will see people and animals sometimes, and then they're gone. So she said that happens to her all the time. She has entire conversations and can relay that for people. But it's weird when it happens to you. So I remember one time I was at the dog park and it was just myself and a guy, and there was a guy sitting in the back and he's sitting there with his dog. And I remember him clear as anything. He's like about 35 years old, blue shirt, jeans, large dog, just sitting there in the back on the bench, chilling out. And I'm up there in the front with my dog, and other people walk in. There's only front way to walk in. And they're like, is it just you here? And I'm like, no, myself and the guy back there. And they look back there and there's nobody back there. And I was like, okay. And I remember that he was clear as day. There's no other way to get out. And things like that have always happened. They're there, they're not there. It's like I wasn't on my phone. I have to pay attention to the dog. Like, what just happened? So I do believe that time is not linear like we believe it is. I think that there are things, astral projection, ascension, spirits, consciousness. I think that we have the ability to be, I don't know what indigo children are. I have no idea what that is. You could fill me in on it. But I think that we have the ability to be, somewhat of a Jedi with our minds, and we have been deliberately dumbed down, held back, told there are only 5 senses when we have far more than 5 senses. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think we have far more powers than we understand.
And I think some people are more spiritually sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that are more spiritually sensitive are going to see these things more.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, anybody can be spiritually sensitive and tap into their, psychic powers. It's kind of like a bicep. Everybody's got biceps, but not everybody has biceps.
So you have to learn how to tap into the energy. You have to learn how to access that.
Yeah.
Once you access that, it opens the floodgates to everything else.
Exactly. So, if you keep practicing too, like keep going to the gym, you work out your bicep, you're going to get a bicep. So you keep working these things out, you can learn to expand your mind and your consciousness.
Mason is looking damn scary in that Jason mask. Joel, you want to chime in on what she's saying here?
Yeah, no, I agree with her. If you notice a lot of the stories, when ones that check out, they're always with children. They always involve kids. They haven't learned yet that they're not supposed to see those things. They're not supposed to hear those things. I think as we get older, we lose that. But actually, you can always get them back. You can learn to expand on those extra senses once again.
That's why we're talking about the imaginary children. A lot of times the children are prone to, I guess sometimes they're darker figures that kind of prey on these kids, because these kids aren't aware that they're not supposed to be tapping into this.
Oh, absolutely. In my documentary Paranormal Mill, you watch till the end. A lot of it has to do with children and living children and children that have passed and that communication. So you'll see that in real time, and it was all accidental. There was no agenda. I wasn't scripting anything. It just happened that day. So that's what makes it really neat.
Well, I mean, it's like when you see small children that can't communicate and they're just staring off to a corner, they're sensing something. They see something. Just no more like if you see a dog or a cat do that. They're pure, they're innocent, they're connected to that energy in a different way where their cynicism hasn't erased it from them, I guess is a good way to put it. But yeah, I 100% agree with that.
So, Joel, I was exploring your social media. You have a possessed children's doll.
And that's this gal right here.
So
I
this is
know nothing
legit
about her.
possessed.
Yes, this. So do you see how she has a light up here too? It just came with a note. Haunted, I don't want this. So now it's mine. One night I
So
turned
someone just
off
sent
that
it to
light.
you?
Yeah, it was dropped. It was just given to me. They didn't want it. They couldn't have it in their house. So I built this enclosure. I put a light up there. She doesn't like the light being turned off. If you turn it off, it'll turn back on. As one of those LED remote controls that can turn it off. If you hit the button, it just lights right back up. And the set comes with multiple. You can use it on other ones. They'll all work. This one, she just wants it on until the battery dies.
Now, did this thing show any signs to you that it's possessed?
I haven't done much with her except for put her in the enclosure. So I don't, unless people are in groups dabbling together, I'd rather do it with groups of people as opposed to just sit there in my house where it is
Oh yeah,
and be
that'd be
like,
creepy
all
as
right, tell me
hell.
your story. Because I don't want to like unleash Pandora's box in my living room. I don't know what's
Oh,
going on there. If this is like an Annabelle situation, leave it there till someone with more credentials than me can handle it. Wow, there's a lot of that's a good
Chet
question. How many
Matthews.
masks does Mason X have?
Yeah, that mask is scary as hell.
Yeah, it is.
April, indigo children are children who are believed to possess special, unusual, and sometimes supernatural traits or abilities.
Oh, okay. I have to look that up. That's pretty awesome. So I guess their parents also, because I think a lot of it is genetic as well. So if
Yep.
the parents kind of encourage it and nurture it and don't go, I don't believe in all this, don't have that attitude. I don't believe in all this superstitious hocus pocus. Like they nurture that, then the children kind of are further along. I guess. I heard a theory once that there's a reason why babies can't speak. I mean, because they're actually reincarnated, and if they could actually talk for the X amount of time, they would tell you what their past life was because their soul is fresh.
Mm-hmm.
That's a unique take on. I've never.
I
heard
know. I've
anything
never.
like that
I
before.
just heard that one recently, and I was like, huh. Because a lot of parents have reported that their children, once they do start talking, they'll start rattling off stories about strange stories about where they used to live, who they used to be. Like, my name is John. I used to live around the corner. My house was black. And it was like, what are you talking about? And the parents chalk it up to them just being like, oh, they're just babbling or whatever. But every once in a while, a parent will take it seriously and start looking up whatever the kid's saying. And that shit exists. So it's like, okay.
Rich, do you have a question for April or?
Yes, they're real.
Got me. I'm
They
done.
are prescription
I'm
glasses.
Well, we're ready to go. We'll see you later. Thanks for coming.
Have a good week, everyone. What's your favorite horror movie, April?
I would probably say Hostel, just because it was so realistic and hard hitting. I was traveling at the time. They made that film feel like it could really happen, and just everything, the dialogue, all of it, the scenarios.
Of course, my horse.
Yeah, yes. So that would be right
the
there.
Achilles tear on the one guy. That's to this day the one that
just all of it is like
go like this, but it's in a good way. It's just so.
So there you go.
Love it. That's awesome.
So we're gonna ask Joel some questions now. Joel, so how did you get involved in the paranormal?
Honestly, I do a lot of graphics for people and things like that. I didn't seek out getting involved. One of my friends, Travis Hartford, he is head of Grim Paranormal. It's a paranormal organization that does a lot of nonprofits. So they don't really charge people to do investigations, but he runs a festival called Parafest Maine every year in the mill that I was talking about. So the first year that he invited me there, he said, "Hey, do you want to set up like a photo booth or something like that?" So I painted this giant background. It was painted like Freddy's sweater, and it just said Parafest and the Nightmare on Elm Street font. Took photos in front of it. Then the next year, I didn't really have anything. But hey, do you want to come down again? I'm like, hey, I'll guess set up the banner and just take video. So went there, did video the entire day, talked to every single person there. Two of the people I talked to were actually, I don't know if you know who Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters is, but his daughter Satori Hawes was one of the people that was there, and her boyfriend Cody. So they have another show called Paranormal Couple. So I was talking to them about a lot of stuff. So I got to learn a lot from people who have the clout, the experience, and really just went with it. The biggest things I learned, which is great that we were doing, looking at photos and whatnot, is a lot of paranormal investigation is trying to disprove it. It's not really trying to prove that something's there. It's looking at something and saying, no, that's not real. If you can't eliminate all possibilities that that's real, then it probably is. And that's one of the really cool things I like about the paranormal world. One thing too, and I didn't get to ask April this, but if anyone, because we were talking about horror movies, my favorite horror film is the Frankenstein series, original one, Bride of Frankenstein. And April was involved with Leon of the Wasteland in Kill City Cup, which is an awesome character, and it reminded me a lot of Dr. Frankenstein. So I really related to his character. But if you watch through the entire credits of Kill City, I don't know how many people have gone all the way to the end, but there's a blurb in there about a thank you to Miss Hunter's chickens there.
Chickens.
And I love that. I don't know,
I
I
thought that was
understand. So you
hilarious.
own chickens, or yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah, I did. I've owned. I've had chickens for the last almost 10 years until this last year, and it was funny because I had to leave by a certain time. When we were doing the filming, it was taking a little bit long, and I was getting nervous because it was starting to get dark out, or the sun was dropping. I was like, I need to get home to get my chickens back in the coop. So I thought that we would be done before that, and I was like, I gotta go. The chickens need to get put away. So I about died laughing when I sat through the end and watched. My friend and I were watching it, and she's like, "Oh my god, it just said thanks to April Hunter's chickens." I'm like, "No, it didn't." And I would look back, and I'm like, "Oh my god, it did."
Luke is a character, right?
I loved it.
That's so funny. So yeah,
I loved it.
yep.
But yeah, as far as the
catch, by the way.
paranormal stuff goes, I thought it was I literally took notes of it. I'm like, I have to ask Luke about this, but so my daughter was there with me that day, and one of the other fellas that was there, if you watch the documentary, he has the booth with all the spirit boards, and he has one going all the way back to 1890, all kinds of, oh my goodness, there it is.
That's one of my girls.
Chicken.
Yep.
We have chickens down the road. I let them come to my yard because they'll eat the ticks and everything else in the
Yeah.
yard. So I'm just like, yeah, come on over. That's fine. I don't have to pay for anything.
Eat the mosquito larva, all of it. They're good bug control. So sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, all these children that go to the paranormal festivals, that's when we were talking about kids earlier, they'll literally go around and tell you there's kids playing hide and seek down there and things like that. And then you'll talk to people in the area and they'll tell you stories about it. So yeah, I mean, if you get a chance, check out Paranormal Mill. It's a fun, it's only 15 minutes, so it's not very long. In the future, I'll probably do longer ones, but as I said, there's no real agenda, so it just kind of happened.
So this is a documentary you made on YouTube?
It's on YouTube, yes.
Okay, sweet.
And you can actually find it. The easiest way to find it is if you just go to mainmacabre.com. There's a link right in the top thumbnail. Has it right there.
I'll message you afterwards so I can put that link in the description.
And when you do, if you message me, I'll send you back a photo that one of the people in the mill sent me of the captain in the mill. Someone took a picture where you can see the mill captain in the photo. And
really?
No one's really talked about, is this real? Is this not? I'm skeptical, but I don't really have a reason to be except for it's too good. So that would be a neat
when you're
one
making
to
this
do that
thing,
with.
what's something scary that happened?
Nothing at all till after.
Nope.
Just watching it after, I'm just like, that's kind of sketchy. Now I have about 7 hour footage because I didn't just go there that day. Another guy I met online, he works for Live Nation doing videography for concerts and things like that. He's filming a movie in the mill. So I've been working on set with him, trying to just learn videography, learn lighting and things like that. So while he's in there and they're not shooting, I'm just walking around the mill, going through tunnels. I'm listening and being more cautious of things around me because there's no people there anymore. It's not a convention. There's maybe like 16 people in the whole place that are in different areas. So I have free reign of this place and I had a lot more access to it. And in fact, Mason X was there with me one time, as was Luke. We were kind of scouting out area. And so he's actually been in a lot of these creepy places as well. And it's funny because rumor has it that some of these ghosts were actually more scared of Mason X than we were of them. It was an interesting situation. But yeah, I
It's
mean,
good
there
to
was
have that
even some
bodyguard
like
there.
I'm looking at the place. It's the perfect environment to film anything in, really.
Rich, you want to ask him something?
Um, what is the most credible thing that you've probably heard or been told of by someone that you trust in terms of like
So
an encounter, an experience, or anything?
so this place doesn't technically exist anymore, but I know a lot of people locally have been here. It still exists as a structure, but they've remodeled it as a like apartment unit, which I don't think is open yet. But back in the early 1900s, when there was huge tuberculosis breakouts, a lot of different states had tuberculosis sanitariums,
Mhm.
and there was one right in my hometown of Fairfield. And the Central Man Sanitarium, that building stood there for years and years, and everyone always they known it as the haunted place. It had been
Mm.
abandoned for a while, um, but it was also a nursing home at the end of the 1900s. So,
Oh,
and it's
wow.
weird that we call it the 1900s because, like, it's the 2000s. But yeah, the end of the 1900s, it was a nursing home, and that's when I think it's haunted from. I know a lot of people talk about, oh, it was a sanitarium, but they get that confused because it was like a mental asylum. It wasn't an
Right.
asylum, it was a tuberculosis place. They knew they were dying. I think something sketchy happened when it was a nursing home. Now, when we were in there walking around, I went into the hallway, I was going up the stairs. I couldn't breathe at all in the stairwell. Not only that, my camera wouldn't work, the shutter just clicked. So I
Oh,
left, and that's fine. I didn't mention it to anyone else. Then my girlfriend and my oldest daughter, they went in. They went up the stairs and came out. They came out and said the same exact thing about feeling like they were being choked in the same area
mm.
that I was without me telling them that I had that same experience. So the fact that it happened to three people in the same area definitely adds credibility to that.
Yeah.
I almost think when it was a nursing home, maybe someone was choked in the hallway. Like, patients, you see it all the time, like, unfortunately, in nursing homes when
Mhm.
things like that happen.
Well, even if they were to have a seizure or something and no one was there, if they could have swallowed on their own tongue or something like that and choked that way, or
Exactly.
that's that. Yeah, I mean, nursing homes, even on their best days, are not the sometimes the greatest places. So
Hmm.
I can only imagine the kind of horror stories that could come out of something like that as well.
Right. I think there was even isn't there an incident with like Luthez
Yeah.
in a nursing home? Yeah.
What
So
happened
Yeah.
with
definitely a lot
Luthez
of
at the
wacky
nursing
stuff.
home?
I think he like had an episode and choked someone out by accident.
Oh my.
That's not who you want choking you out in the nursing home.
No.
That's
Reminds me of
crazy.
Stu
No,
Hart. Let me show you something. It's not good on you.
You're not in the
but no
dungeon
one would be
anymore, Stu.
surprised if it was Stu Hart. No one would be
Oh
surprised at
man,
all.
I love seeing Stu Hart do all these. Like, I'm just gonna step up here. I'm just gonna show you a little move here.
Absolutely.
Freaking
No, the
stretch
stories
you
are
out.
definitely fantastic. And that's one of those things that you don't really hear a lot anymore. People go to wrestling schools now and they're just so, it's almost just like practicing for any sports. But I love the old school stories about people like Hogan going to the wrestling school. He got his leg broken day one. People just hearing like stuff popping in Stu Hart's basement and things like that. You don't really hear that anymore.
So you're a wrestling fan then, Joel?
I I was a wrestling fan growing up. I dabbled in the sport as well in the area. I just wasn't very good at it, to be quite honest. And that's another, there's a difference between a lot of people feel like they can do it, and maybe with a lot of hard work you can. But I was passionate and I worked hard to do it, and I still wasn't very good. So you have a lot of respect for people who are good at it, because it's not as simple as it's not the choreographed song and dance people think at all. In fact,
Yeah.
I don't think I had a
Sorry.
single match where everything wasn't called in the ring.
Who would you say your favorite wrestler is of all
Me
time?
personally, of
Yeah.
all time, okay, that's a tricky one. Um, wow, so many to choose from. Growing up, it was Bret Hart, but I was right on the
Ah,
board of the United States and Canada, so it was hard not to be a Bret fan. Um, as an adult, I guess Brian Danielson. I watched a
yeah.
lot of
Now,
Brian
yeah,
Danielson in Ring of
he's
Honor.
freaking good. Yeah.
He's good.
April, did you have a favorite?
I did. Yeah. Eddie Guerrero.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I thought
Latino.
I always thought he was kind of the total package. You know, he's good on the mic, good in the ring, entertaining, very technically sound, just everything. So he could have a hell of a match with pretty much anyone.
Okay, we haven't talked about it much, so we're talking a little bit about the Kill City Cup. So I'll get back to Mason since he's been quiet here for a bit. Mason, what was your favorite thing about doing the Kill City Cup?
A chance to interact with more monsters and freaks like myself in a environment perfectly tailored for that type of individual. It was very exciting and very freeing to be even more exaggerated than we normally are, to be very outlandish without the constraints of having to make it just be regular professional wrestling.
So you were a last minute ad, Mason. We were talking in chat the other day, and you were a last minute ad. So you were able to slide in there, and that's pretty fortunate.
I saw an opportunity and I took it. All I had to do was ask what was going on with all this beautiful ladies being power bombed through tables by freakish monsters in a place that looked like it was a war zone. I want in on that.
Yeah, that Natalia Markova video went viral. I don't know who that. Does anyone know who that other guy was who was slamming her into the table?
Yeah, that was Brian, I think.
Mhm.
No, it wasn't Brian. It was
yeah, because he was
it
in the
was
first.
Voodoo
Yeah.
McQueen, something McQueen. Mojo
Oh, was
McQueen.
it? Oh,
Mojo McQueen, that's the name.
So yeah, I'm hoping that first Kill City Cup gets released because it was just so good. Want to get more of the Kill City Cup. April, what's your favorite thing about the Kill City Cup?
I love that they kind of turned it into wrestling, but with video game and comic book accents. So it became something different. So there's a million wrestling shows out there, but this one stands out as something very unique. And I like that we all had to play characters, or we were all welcome to play characters. As soon as he contacted me and said you can play a warrior, and I was like, so I thought that was fun, and it was really neat to look around and see that everybody was playing a character instead of just doing, an exaggerated version of themselves, like on a regular, AEW or Ring of Honor show. So it was fun. That was the thing. It wasn't work. It was fun.
I can imagine. I don't want this to happen because I'm a big friend of Natalia Markova. You don't want to do that, do you, April?
What?
Get revenge on Natalia Markova?
If there's a part 2, why wouldn't I?
Mason was down there saying it's happening.
That's the correct answer.
Joel, what was your favorite part of the Kill City Cup since you're a big fan?
The presentation, I don't know if anyone remembers a show in the 90s called WMAC Masters, where it was almost like a staged ninja type tournament. At that same time, you had Mortal Kombat and things like that going on. And it felt like they took all these fun things from the 90s and just congealed it into one. So it was almost like a nostalgia void being filled for, I think, a lot of fans of that era.
Rich, what about you?
Yeah, I really loved it because it felt like it was Mad Max, Mortal Kombat, and pro wrestling had a baby.
Yeah.
And to me, it was just the perfect blend of gore and character and lawlessness. And it's left me wanting more. I need Kill City Cup 2. God, I need more.
Yeah, for me it was like because I'm friends with Natalia Markova and we've just been riding the Natalia Markova train for the longest time. It's like, oh, she's in this project. Let's see what this is about. And got to be friends with Luke here, and we were the first people that kind of started promoting it and wanted him on the podcast. So um, it's just like, this is amazing. Like, it's so good. Like, I get objection, like he promotes it as this is the worst movie. I'm like, no, it's not the worst movie.
No, but it's good promoting though. Think about things like
yeah.
Yeah.
if you watch Ed Wood films and things like that. People
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
Ed Wood who talk about the worst film ever made with Plan 9 from Outer Space, but it's not that bad of a film, but it makes people watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone
You
loves a
just
good
kind
B
of have to
movie
switch
anyways,
your
right?
brain different. Yeah.
Mhm.
What are you saying, Rich?
I just said everyone loves a good B movie anyways.
Yeah.
So you get that era and you get that feel to it. And it's just, there's something about it that just I don't know, it just brings me back to my childhood and watching like the cheesy monster movies of the 80s and stuff like that. There's just that nostalgia feeling. And I think that our society today is really big in nostalgia. So if you can tap into that, I think that you find a successful product.
All right. Here's a good question, and we're gonna ask everyone this question to kind of close the show. What is the worst wrestling movie ever? Go ahead, April.
Just another romantic wrestling comedy, and unfortunately, I was in that one as well. It was so bad. I mean, I was in it. China was there. Don Fry was in it. It's like there's a whole bunch of people. There's wrestling, and it was just badly done. But it was like
What is it called?
just another romantic wrestling comedy.
And
It's
the name
fun.
is even bad.
It is. It's fun bad though, not
Yeah.
bad, but fun bad. Yes. So
Rich, what do you think? What's the worst wrestling movie ever?
Three Ninjas High Noon featuring Hulk Hogan.
That's, I guess it counts.
Oh, come
That
on.
was pretty bad. Mason, the worst wrestling movie ever.
A movie called Backyard Dogs. I hate that
Tell us
movie.
about that.
Somehow they suckered Frankie Kazarian and Hayabusa into it. How? I don't know. But it shouldn't have happened. That movie was awful. It's probably why Hayabusa broke his neck after.
Oh wow. Joel, what's the worst wrestling movie ever?
I would say the 1985 film Grunt, the wrestling movie with Adrian Street. It's so hard to follow. It's like the imagery is so great, but it's just not cohesive. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
I love all these movies I've never heard of. My answer is simple: No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan. Like just the line Dookie. Like, who says that? Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
come on. It's Hulk
Um,
Hogan, though. And
yeah.
Zeus.
Yeah.
At least nobody said Ready to Rumble. That's I'm happy.
I feel it's got a
I
bit of a
love
more
that movie.
classic
it's not
feel
that
to it.
bad.
I
No, it's
love
not
that
bad.
movie.
Yeah.
I forgot about the guy's head popping off in that movie. Yes. Has anyone seen Grunt? You all need to watch it then if you haven't seen that.
Nuke It Be Done says, did April mention anything about China?
I did when we were talking about bad movies that I was in and she was in, and we collectively.
Is that your
were
only
in a
connection to her?
No, we worked the Arnold Classic. We both went to Killer Kowalski's. So we worked together in passing. Mm-hmm. Because she was well, obviously she's an icon, but she was, when I worked with her out in San Francisco at a convention as well, and she had good days and she had bad days, so it depended, but yeah.
Well, I promised Luke I'd only have you for an hour, so we'll wrap this up. On behalf of Lord Ryan Rich, on behalf of Abel Hunter, on behalf of Joel Bouchard and Mason X, Thank you for tuning in to Wrestling with the Paranormal. Thank you for watching the show. It's been a real good show. And as we always say on every single episode, sometimes in life it just kicks your ass, and you could be depressed. You could even be suicidal and want to end it all. But I promise you, the darkness only lasts so long before the sun comes out. You know, those thoughts that you're having of suicide and all those kind of things. Athletes, movie stars, pro wrestlers, politicians, and everyone else famous have all had those thoughts too, but they don't share it. I promise you that life is better with you, and the sun will come out again. So remember, if you need to reach out to somebody, reach out to us. We will we'll reach out our hand to you and give you an ear to talk to. So remember to dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and remember to just keep fighting.